You hit 10 million in production and suddenly growth stops. 1 month you're slammed. The next month there's nothing. Hey, in this podcast, I'm going to share with you a coaching conversation with an agent who had hit their first 10 million. So they had joined us a few years ago at our brokerage, and then she hit 10 million and got to 100% commission split. And I had a conversation with her, said, I'm going to walk through the conversation I had with her. And what she was experiencing was this feast and famine. And many of you have experienced this where it's like a roller coaster. So 1 month she had 7 files. The next month she has none. The next month she has 4 files. And so it's up and down. And I'm going to walk you through the framework that I use when trying to diagnose this, and specifically how to solve it. Because whatever you're at in your business, you can solve this. And at the end, I promise you'll be able to give you a way to figure out what this is so that you can go. And it's not that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's very easy to solve. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. And each week I bring you an episode from a coaching conversation on Friday. And the idea is to help you in your business. I started a brokerage a few years ago in 2021. And in our first year, we did 265 million. And last year, we did 2.8 billion in 2025. So it was in 4 years. It's been an amazing ride and work with some fantastic people. You can always hit me up if you're interested to find out more about that. But let's just jump into this conversation. All right. So first is number one thing I always want to ask is, what's the constraint? There's a fantastic book called The Theory of Constraints. And if you haven't read it, it's one of these books that Jeff Bezos gets all of his executives to read. It is really good. And so the first thing you want to identify, what is the constraint in the business? And in this case, I said, and there could be one of 3 things. But I didn't know, and I don't assume anything when I have a conversation. I have done it in the past where I assume I know what the answer is, and then I discover that I'm off, and then I have to adjust. And so what I'd like to do is just ask questions. And so I said to her, and she explained this whole cycle. Okay. And in my head, the first thing I thought was like, oh, she probably needs help. Because often what happens for mortgage brokers, this is the most common pattern I see, is that you will get good at getting business. You'll go out and you'll prospect like crazy. And then you get a bunch of files on your desk. And now then for 1 month, you're prospecting. The next month, you're working on the files. And then when you look up, you finally catch your breath and you're done. You're like, oh crap, now I got no more files. And I got to go and hustle again. So that cycle that I see, this roller coaster, is typically caused by and not always, but typically caused by the fact that you don't have any help. And so your files are taking up too much of your time, because for her to close 7 files, she didn't just work on 7 files. She was probably working on 18 files, right? Because there's some of them that are going to close in months from now. And so the point is that, but I asked her when I dug into it, I said, and a question I like to ask, and if I was talking to you, this is what I would ask you when you're trying to decide, I don't know if I want to spend money on help, Scott. I would say, if you could get 2 hours a day of your week back, so 10 hours a week, do you think you could find 1 more file a month? Most mortgage brokers who have been doing to get to 10 million, like, yeah, for sure. So then that becomes okay, if we can get you 10 hours a week, let's figure out how to get you 10 hours a week. The simplest solution for this is to get some help on fulfillment and or automate processes. And so I dove into that. She does have help on fulfillment, and she uses it consistently, because you can have help on fulfillment, but if you don't use it consistently, then it doesn't actually help you, especially if it's a fulfillment service that is fee-based per file rather than somebody who's full-time. So she had that, and she had pretty good systems in place. So that wasn't the problem. So then I said, okay, well, it sounds like it could be a leads problem. So what do we need to do in order to get you more leads? And so whenever I'm trying to increase leads, I don't add anything new. As a guy who, it's funny because, as a guy who likes new things, it's not the right thing to do first. The first thing to do is to go, okay, break down for me where all your business came from. So look at your source of business, realtors, past clients, client referrals, wherever that source is. And so I asked her this question. This is what I would ask you, is that if you look at that, once you've figured out where your business is coming from, which of these could you double in production, double over the next 12 months if you really focused on it? Now, some of them are like, oh, that one I could or I couldn't do it. And in this case, she said client referrals. And so she said, I think I could get more business from client referrals. And I said, okay, great. That's going to add, for where she wants to get to. I'm like, we could add significant volume. So now then we get into the strategy. So there's no point in coming up with strategies and tactics if you haven't identified what to work on. It's sort of like if you have an engine that's, a car that's not working well and you're replacing the tires, but you really need to look at the engine. It's like, who cares if you got fancy new tires and fancy tinted windows? You're not fixing the main problem. And so what you need to do is the rest of it does not really matter, honestly, until you get that next thing fixed. And this is something Elon Musk is very good at, is his whole thing is he finds constraints in business and the bottleneck, and he fixes it. That's where he spends all of his time in any of his businesses. So in any case, we identified that it was past clients and said, okay, what are you doing right now? And so she said past clients. And then the next question is, what are you doing right now? Because if that's the low hanging fruit that we're going to go after, then I'm going to be, okay, what can we amplify or do more of instead of adding anything new? And so she had this program called Own Well. I'm like, are you using it? No, not really. I said, okay, well, first off, there's a really easy solution. Everybody who's engaging, you need to call everybody and explain to them how this program works, and the value of it coming into their database. And when you're having those conversations, you can ask for referrals. But so that was the first thing. So she has people that are engaging in it. The second is that I said, there's also with these OMO reports, there's other software that does this, but it basically it figures out if there's an opportunity to save money on that mortgage because based on the rate and the time that's left on the mortgage. And they'll tell you this is a person can save $30,000. Reach out to those people. So they have this opportunities tab that basically pulls up any opportunities in your database. So there's the nurture campaign, but then there's the opportunity side. So I'm like, okay, all those people need to call. And then the second one is there's another one where you can tell in Ownwell, again, and lots of tools do this, but you can tell in Ownwell who's been clicking on your reports. And so you can be like, oh, somebody who's really engaging with their home equity report it's an indication of they want to do something. So I was talking to a mortgage broker who they saw somebody doing this. They called them. Sure enough, they're like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about refining. Like they actually called them before they even had reached out. And they may or may not have reached out. They may have gone back to the existing lender. But in either case, they were able to, it was the preconditions for making a decision. And so those were the first three that we said that should be step one. But what I like to do is come up with 3 strategies that are hyper focused on that database. The next thing we talked about was she's doing a pretty good job on social. And I said, what are you sending on a monthly basis to she got a database of 200 people. And I said, what are you sending to them? Oh, I still have to send them 1 email a month. And I'm like, okay, what are you sending in those emails? And these are typically templated emails that come from somewhere else and she's not in them. And so I broke down for her, okay, you need to put you're a great communicator. And she said that what she really likes to focus on is refinances. I said, great, you got an avatar. This makes it even easier. You need to be putting content consistently in your newsletter that is for that avatar. And the people that don't care won't pay attention. So we went through a whole plan on what to do with that. And so we basically went through this whole sequencing of events in order to help her get really focused on going more after these client referrals. And at the end of it, she's like, okay, I now have a plan to do. And I have no doubt, I've noticed this person's going to hit their 20 million and because they are motivated, they do the work. But the whole purpose of this, so I just want to back up for a second and kind of help you apply this to your own business. So here's what you need to do. The first thing you need to do whatever you're at, you're stuck. What is the constraint? Number one thing you need to ask. Once you identify, be honest, what is the thing that's, the constraint? And then once you figure out the constraint, is it a people problem? Is it a process like problem? So either technology or process, or is it I need more leads? It's one of those 3 things. And if it's leads, then what you're going to do is, okay, where am I getting my business from now? And which one of these, and I did this with a person who does 200 million a year, exact same process. We figured out which one of these could make, a couple episodes ago, which one of these could realistically double in the next 12 months. And she identified it. I'm like, okay, great. Now let's game plan how to do that. And so that's all you need to do. So then hyper focus on fixing that. Do not worry about changing the tires on your car if your engine is not running well. You need to focus on the number one thing to fix, which in this case was leads. Fix that. Trust me, when you do, another problem will come. And that's the great part about business. And it's not even a problem. It's another area for you to focus on so that your business can grow and scale. So I hope you find that useful. I know I love these conversations. I love chatting with people that are motivated like her. And it was fantastic for me to have that conversation. If you have any questions about, our brokerage and what we do, I'd be happy to chat with you. You can reach out. Also, we do a mortgage mindset daily call where we go deep dive into a book. Right now, we're going through a book called Exactly What to Say, which is all about scripting. And it is killer sessions. We did one today, one recording of this, and the sessions are killer. So if it's something you're interested in, you can hit me up on that as well. Thanks for listening. As I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is finding who has the answer. This podcast is designed to provide some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next show.